Okay, welcome in one and all. I did not have time to make my previews for Monday's game, so what I'll do is I'll make my review and I'll say who I thought would win and who actually won said contest. So the Detroit Red Wings went into Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. I would have guessed that Detroit would have gotten the victory, and they sure did. A 4-0 final from Columbus. So I'll take a look at the scoring summary here in just a second. So Shane Gothenberg would kick things off for the Red Wings, making it 1-0 just 9 minutes into the first frame, assisted by Valino and Mata. So it was 1-0 for the Red Wings heading into the second period. Michael Rasmussen, with just about 8 minutes into the game, into the second period, I should say, would double up the lead, 2-0, assisted by JT Compher. And then I want to say just under 9 minutes to go, Dylan Larkin would get a power play goal from Alex DeBrincat and Sider. And then Andrew Kopp would score less than a minute after that on a power play, assisted by Raymond and Wallman. So it was 4-0 was the final from Columbus. Detroit's now sitting at 2-1-0 on the season, while the Blue Jackets have fallen to 1-2-0. Our next matchup takes place in New Jersey. Oh. Where we would have the Florida Panthers, who would take on the Devils. I would have guessed that the Devils would have gotten this victory. They made it close, to say the least, but they just came up oh so short, and 4-3 was the final score. So Sam Reinhart would kick things off in the first period with about 4 minutes into that frame, assisted by Rodriguez. Carter Verhaeghe would double up the lead with just under 7 minutes to go in the first, assisted by Kachuk and Mahura. So it was 2-0 for the Panthers heading into the second frame. And there was just a one goal in the second period to report. With just under 9 minutes to go, Nico Mikola would score, assisted by Matthew Kachuk and Dmitry Kulikov. So it was 3-0 for the Panthers heading into the third and final frame. Sam Reinhart would get a power play goal with just about a minute into that frame, assisted by Ekman Larson and Barkov. So it was 4-0 for the Panthers, which is about a minute into the third frame. Eric Holla would finally stop the bleeding, get the Devils on the board with about 3.5 minutes into the frame, a power play goal from Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. Michael McLeod would cut the lead down to 4-2 with just under 9 minutes to go, an even strength goal from Howla and Holtz. And Jesper Bratt would get a power play goal with about 2.5 minutes to go in the frame to make it a 4-3 contest, assisted by Dougie Hamilton. So 4-3 was the final from New Jersey. Florida gets their first win of the season. They are sitting at 1-2-0, while the Devils have ones all across their board. They have one win, one loss, and one overtime/shootout loss on the season thus far. Our next matchup takes place in New York. Where we see the Arizona Coyotes, who went into Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Rangers. I would have predicted that the Rangers would have gotten the victory. It was a low-scoring affair, but they got the W, and that's all that matters. Chris Kreider would kick things off with just under 6 minutes to go in the first. An even-strength goal from Mika Zibanejad and Kisper Kako, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. So it was 1-0 for the Rangers heading into the second frame. Clayton Keller would score 5 minutes exactly into the second period on a power play goal from Nick Schmaltz and Logan Cooley to tie things up at 1 after 2. And in the third period, Vincent Trocheck would give the Rangers a lead with just over 8 minutes to go, just about 8 minutes into the game, so just under 12 minutes to go in the frame. And he would get a power play goal from Panarin and Adam Fox. So 2-1 was the final from New York. The Rangers are now sitting at 2-1-0 on the season, while the Coyotes only played their second game of the year, have one win, one loss, and 0 overtime/shootout losses thus far. Our next matchup takes place in Ontario. Where we would see two original six franchises duel it out in Toronto. In this particular matchup, I would have guessed the Maple Leafs would have gotten the victory. It was not meant to be. They suffered their first loss of the season. And here's how the scoring summary went last night. So Mackenzie Entwistle would kick things off just about 3 minutes into the first period, assisted by Athanasiou and Kachuk. John Tavares would score about 5 minutes into the frame, assisted by William Nylander and Mark Giordano. Corey Perry would give the Chicago Blackhawks a lead with about 5 minutes to go in the frame, assisted by Vlasic and Seth Jones, and Tyler Johnson would increase the lead with just under 3 minutes to go in the frame. A power play goal assisted by Athanasiou and Korchinski. So it was 4-1 heading into the second period, where there were no goals in the second to report, and it took until about 5 seconds left in the frame to get an empty netter for Taylor Radish to therefore put the game on ice. 4-1 was the final from Toronto. Chicago is now sitting at 2 wins, 2 losses, and 0 overtime/shootout losses on the season thus far, which is pretty good considering they started off the season on a 4-game away trip, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, not too bad. So you got 500 after 4 games, and considering that you have yet to play a 1 home game thus far. And our Leafs, as I mentioned, suffered their first loss of the season. They are sitting at 2-1-0. The last matchup from that Monday took place in the United States capital. Washington Capitals, ironically, took on the Calgary Flames. I would have guessed the Flames would have gotten the victory in this one, but they came up just short. 3-2 was the final score. It took into a shootout to decide a winner, so at least they got a point out of it. But obviously, I'm sure they would have loved to have gotten that second point rather than just settle for the one. So to kick things off in the first, Adam Rosinka would score with just about 5 minutes into the frame. An even strength goal from Noah Hannafin and Dylan Dubé. Speaking of Dylan, he would get a power play goal with just under 3 minutes to go to increase the lead to 2-0, assisted by Hannafin and Rosinka. So both Rosinka, Hannafin, and Dubé each had 2 points on the night. So it was 2-0 for the Flames heading into the second period, where Matthew Phillips would cut the lead in half with just about 7 minutes into the frame. He banked a goal from Sammy Milano, if I'm not mistaken. And then Connor McMichael would tie things up with about 10 minutes to go in the frame, assisted by Matthew Phillips and John Carlson. So it was 2-0 heading into the third and final frame, where there were no goals in the overtime. It took into a shootout, as I've mentioned just a few seconds ago, to decide a winner. Evgeny Kuznetsov would get the game-winning goal to secure the Capitals' first win of this young campaign. So they are sitting at 1-0 on the season, while Calgary, just like the Devils, have won all across the board when it comes to their records. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 overtime/shootout loss. As always, if you have to come across this video and you like this type of content, feel free to hit that sub button. I'd be very grateful and appreciative for that. And as always, take care.